when I look back on it now and I realize we're in our 38th, 39th year of being a band, it is pretty amazing. I met Steve and Bill right out of high school. Of course, Steve drummer, Bill guitar player, myself on keys and vocals. They were playing together all through high school, so they've known each other even longer, but we met through a mutual friend right out of high school. I was going to University of Michigan, the other guys were going to other schools, and we decided just to get together and jam, and as cliche as it sounds, it clicked from day one, and we are still playing 38 some years later.
Did you come here to catch me? Did you see me?
I have to say, right out of school, when we put the band together, we were very influenced by the growing progressive rock scene out of England. Bands like Pink Floyd, more esoteric bands like Yes or Atomic Rooster, and bands you probably have never heard of. We just gravitated toward that style of music. There really wasn't a lot of American bands, and especially in Detroit, home of, Stooges, MC5, Bob Seger, that type of, American rock. There weren't very many bands playing that type of music, and because we did have a keyboard player, we were able to pick up more styles of music. So you look at Uriah Heep, you look at early Genesis. So we kind of started off in that genre. We came out of the 60s and, and the hippies out of that generation and went into the 70s, and it was a wild and crazy time, and we fell right into it. That being said, we were pretty good at what we did musically, so we opened up for a lot of what I kind of call dinosaur bands now, but bands like Steppenwolf and Seeger and Foghat and Nazareth. I mean, we shared stages with these guys, and we just thought, this is what we want to do, this is where we're going to go. So we were going down a very different path than where we ended up.
I'm sending out a prayer for all the warriors standing guard, preparing for the fight. I'm praying.
It's a very interesting story, but it's a little too long to tell people with how we became a Christian band. Easiest thing to say is God reached down and slapped me upside the head. And two things happened. I met Jan, the woman who was to become my wife, one night, and she said she knew from the moment she met me that I was meant to be her husband, but she couldn't take me the way I was. It's just to show you what a different personality I was back then. She actually went to an open Catholic church. She's not Catholic, but went to an open Catholic church on the campus of Eastern Michigan University, and went in there. She said she got down on her knees and gave me over to God. And she said, I know this is a man I'm supposed to marry, but I can't, the way he is. And that was in probably 1978, and about a year later, I got born again. I'm not going to go through those little steps. If you ever want to talk about it, I'd be glad to, but I changed my life around. And I thought, man, I got to be very careful about what I'm doing now. Well, that was the first part of the slap. The second part of the slap was it turned out that I had a hole in one of my vocal cords, and it began to get worse and worse and worse. And I was having more and more problems singing a lot of the stuff we were doing. So I had it looked at by a surgeon, and he says, yeah, that's called a congenital cyst. You've had it since you were born. We can go in there and fix it. And I said, okay, well, I might as well do that and just try to get over this thing. Went in, had the surgery. 6 weeks after the surgery, we had actually hired a lead vocalist so we could keep playing because I couldn't talk. Well, 6 weeks after it, I still couldn't talk. I couldn't do very much at all vocally, and so, asking the doctor, so when can I start singing? And he looked at me and he goes, what do you mean singing? I said, well, I'm the lead singer of a band. And he goes, I thought you were the leader of a band. This is an older gentleman. He thought I was a band leader. He says, I never would have done that surgery if I knew you sang for a living. Believe me, man, that was like, are you kidding me? And so that really took me down. And, we just had to give my whole life over to God at that point. I said, Lord, what is this supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with this now? Well, long story short, a couple years after that, I actually won a singing competition. I stopped singing a lot of the tunes that were negative, both in their presentation, their lyrics, and that were detrimental to the way I could sing. My range has changed, the timbre of my voice changed, but we decided at that point, you know what? If we're going to do this for God, if we're going to become a Christian band, even though we were still playing clubs and nightclubs and that kind of stuff, I said, we got to commit. It became very, very hard then at that point then to stand up in a club at the end of the night and talk about tequila shot specials. I said, I can't do this anymore, man. We're going to start killing people with our testimony. Here, we want to talk about what we're doing. This isn't right. And so Steve and Bill, God bless them, said, you know what, we're right with you. Let's just keep doing this. And the rest of the people that were in the band at that time just kind of drifted away. And here we are 30 years later going, pretty cool. The entire point of a Sweet Crystal show is for you to realize that there's a whole commonality between you, the listener, us, the performer, and that the stuff you're going through, if we haven't gone through that exact thing, we're going through something very similar to it, or we went through something similar, and here's what we did to overcome it. Here's where we are now. We don't hide that we're a Christian band. We just come in and pretty much people just think of us as a rock band, and by the time you're done listening to a set of our stuff, it's pretty darn blatant. You know, the fact that we're just talking about God. We're not preaching at you, we're telling you our story, and the fact that we're pretty jubilant about where we ended up. So you feel like coming along, there's plenty of room for you.